Drummond doing our first session. Hi, what brings you in today?
Well, actually, I've kind of discovered something about myself that I'm not particularly fond of, but don't understand why I haven't.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what that might be?
Yeah, well, I mean, generally, I have trust issues with all people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way I'm wired. I don't trust anybody as far as I can throw them. And but I've noticed lately that it's more concentrated towards, or in particular, I mean, I don't trust anybody, but it's in a higher concentration when it comes to those of Hispanic descent.
Okay. So, what you're saying is you already have a mistrust of people in a general sense, but even more so, or there's more, I guess you've noticed more of it being in Hispanic
Mm-hmm.
people. So, do you um, do you feel like you are racist in any way?
Um, I think it could definitely be misconstrued that way. And I mean, I do stereotype at times. And it's weird because I can get to know someone that I've worked with initially that I didn't trust, and then after a certain amount of time, I'm fairly decent friends with them, and it doesn't matter what race they are. So I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily a racist, but I think I stereotype out of a general mistrust, um, and I just stereotype the culture as a whole. And it's not just stereotypes like what you see on TV where, oh, okay, you're Hispanic, that means you must have a gardener in your family, or
Right.
something like that. For me, it's the worst examples of Hispanic culture, just like with white culture would be the KKK or the Nazis, or even the way we mistreated Indians back in the day. But for me, the worst examples, worst stereotypes of Hispanic culture is the way I generalize everyone.
Okay. So is there something like specific that they do that you don't trust? Is it a way that they kind of present themselves? Is it the way that a lot of people are upset because a lot of people come over as immigrants? Is that what frustrates you, or?
Nah, what frustrates me is just there's an inherent, well, not inherent because it's not, it's just generalization, but it just, to me, it seems like there's a shadiness to them. Um, Maybe it's a cultural thing, and it's more probably me, but and also the reason why there's a shadiness is because you never know when you're telling them, an individual. If you're telling an individual something that's private to you, you don't know who else they're telling, and if it's information that could put you at risk, you never know who they have in their family that may overhear it and try to take advantage of it. And I'm speaking more of the you know um, criminal aspect of it, um, because unfortunately in that culture and in a lot of cultures, the criminal side isn't completely discouraged. It's not the most liked thing about a culture, but it's not discouraged, or it's either that or it's work.
Mhm.
It's just almost one and the same in some respects. Um, so yeah.
It's very interesting because what I'm hearing is that you've centralized a distrust towards a certain group of individuals, and it actually could be said of any race or culture. So, um, I think the best thing at this point would be to help me understand who you are, where you've come from, maybe some things that you've seen that have caused you to mistrust people in a general sense, and then from there we can look at maybe some more of the specific triggers that make you feel this way.
Well, I have had some personal experiences where I have given information over freely in the idea of a friendship, and it got taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
And since trust is such a major issue with me, a double cross like that, it just compounded it and made it a general thing. Because with me, once I'm crossed, or once that trust is misused or abused or taken for granted, there's no second chance. And usually it's no second chance for anybody else that even partially is familiar to that same situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that general mistrust of all people just got compounded because of that one experience. And so now there's just even more of a mistrust with that particular people group.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that you've forgiven that individual for what they've done?
I don't know. Like in some senses I have, or maybe just let it go. I don't know if I've forgiven them, but I've definitely just, it is what it is, and now I know. And that's something, even with family I have, there have been situations where my trust was taken for granted, and it took a long time for me to ever even speak to them again, let alone trust them. And I forgave them for it eventually because I trusted them again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the hard thing for me is forgetting it, or completely letting it go. So I guess in a large sense, no, I haven't forgiven anyone that's ever crossed me.
Okay. I think that's a very powerful statement. I haven't fully forgiven anyone that's crossed me, because what's happening, what it sounds like, what I'm hearing is that this generalization is based on one person's actions. And based on that one person's actions, you have not only held them accountable for what they've done to you, but now you're asking an entire cultures really, to be accountable for that one action. And that person, do they even know that they crossed you, or how you feel?
It would be hard for them not to know, because it was their fault to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Or in my mind, I would say that it was my fault for even sharing that information.
Right.
But in the situation, yeah, I mean, they'd be hard pressed not to know that they caused it. Because if they hadn't, said anything to anybody else, it may or may not have happened at all.
Right. Some drama could have been saved.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, some loss could have been saved from happening or prevented.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you feel like this is something that you want to change about yourself? I mean, is this something that you see as being a hindrance to who you are?
Yeah. It's definitely a hindrance, because I truly love all people, deep down.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. I think it's harder for me to fully trust them, and this is anybody, not just Hispanic culture, but my own culture, the Indian culture, both American Indian and Indian from India, or Middle Eastern people, African people. The people group doesn't matter. So I don't trust anyone with my information, or any kind of information I deem important. But I do love them at the same time, and I'm very conflicted by that, because I do want to. Despite how I sound, I am a Christian man, and I've gone on mission trips before, and I do want to be better, because I know that I can't complete the work God has for me if I can't trust people completely, or at least enough to get past the stereotypes I set up for myself, the defense mechanisms.
Right.
So.
Okay. So that's good though, because that means you know that there's an issue, and it also says that you want to have change, because without that change, you can't live your life really according to what God has called us to, and forgiving others, and loving them, being able to love them in the full capacity and the freedom that God actually calls us to. So I think that's a good step in acknowledging, hey, this is really rooted in something else that goes a little deeper. But I think also it's important to really pinpoint those certain individuals, and making that point and that step to forgive them in fullness, and even going before the Lord, as you said, you are a Christian man, and saying, God, help me not only to forgive them, but to forget, because you are kind of putting that guilt on others that had nothing to do with it, and it's not really fair to them. It's not a fair picture of who you are, and it's not a fair picture of who they are either.
Right.
So I appreciate you coming in. It was really great talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel free, we can do more sessions about this if you'd like to. But I think for right now, the best thing moving forward is just to really seek God and His guidance in helping forgive these individuals. Okay?
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.